This episode contains discussions of suicide and suicidal thoughts. Please take care while listening. What happens when the body breaks down and the mind spirals? And the only way out is to rewrite everything you've been taught about healing. Emily Penton joins us to share her powerful journey of reversing bipolar disorder and multiple sclerosis using a meat-based diet, nervous system regulation, and radical self-honesty. In this conversation, we go deep into the emotional roots of chronic illness, the myth of willpower, and why clarity is the most ancestral tool of all. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like your mind and body are at war, this one's for you. Welcome to Everyday Ancestral. I am your host, James Berry. Please enjoy Emily Penton. You overcame both bipolar disorder and MS, right?
Yeah.
Multiple sclerosis using nutrition and mindset. That's kind of unheard of. So what was the moment that you realized the path your doctors laid out wouldn't work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I tried the normal route with a psychiatrist, with a cocktail of medications, with therapy, with all different modalities. And I still wasn't functioning. I say that the medication did work because it kept me out of the psych ward and it kept me from taking my own life. So it worked, but I wasn't functioning. And so it wasn't until I got to the bottom of the barrel where I had nowhere else to go, that whenever I was shown this example of Amber O'Hearn, that she had resolved her bipolar disorder symptoms 10 years previously, I was just like, I'll try anything. And so I wasn't going against what my doctors were saying. I continued taking my psych meds and my modalities and everything. I did it in addition to. And then whenever I experienced relief and I experienced clarity and I experienced thinking about the future in a positive way, I was just like, okay, like there's something here. And then the multiple sclerosis snuck in, which I know that the way that I was eating didn't cause the multiple sclerosis. It just peeled back the curtain and revealed it. And so that was me going against the doctors, because I just did kind of a common study, and I realized that the deteriorated myelin sheath on my nerves that was multiple sclerosis is made out of fat. And so I was like, I just need to keep eating fat, and also that it was inflammation. And so I'm already on the right track to have less inflammation by not eating Doritos and ramen noodles and donuts and eating fatty animal meat. And it was a gamble that paid off for me.
Yeah, I guess we should probably even take a step back further so people understand, like, what was life like? So maybe share a bit about when you first started feeling bipolar, what you were eating, what you think led up to it, and what that state was like.
Yeah, I don't think I ever felt normal. I mean, I would always have just very extreme emotions, even like as a child. And then definitely it was exacerbated in adolescence with all the hormones and everything. And then my 20s.
How did it show up, though, emotionally when in your adolescence, when you were first getting more hormonal,
Everything was just catastrophized in my mind. And it wasn't that my circumstances were a problem. It was the lens with which I saw my circumstances through. Like somebody would say something and I would be like, oh my gosh, this person hates me. And, this is the end of my life. And all, like, I would just catastrophize things in my mind. And I felt very alone. I felt like even when I did speak my truth, I would get these looks from people that were like, what? So I learned to just not share. I learned to not share who I am. And then in my 20s, it looked like risky behavior, impulsivity, lots of firing from different jobs, failed marriages, broken relationships with friends and family members. It was just this literal like tornado path of just destruction that was the life of Emily.
And you were also pretty heavy then as well. I mean, because you're not at all now. So I think sharing that contrast is important as well.
Yeah. I was at my highest, I was about 260 pounds. I'm 5'8". And now I'm about 140. My lowest that I got to with, this way of eating was 130.
So you lost like 120, 130 pounds.
Yeah. And pretty fast, like within the first year. But I recognize that a lot of it was inflammation. Like I look back at pictures and I can just see the inflammation in my body. And I didn't want to lose weight. Like I didn't think there was anything wrong with my body. That's what everybody in Southeast Missouri looks like. I didn't think anything. So I wasn't trying to lose weight. It was a cool side effect whenever I could bend over and tie my shoes without taking a break, because I just thought that's the way everybody was, in their 30s, 40s.
Well, yeah, the not having the people we surround ourselves with, the mirrors, right? If you don't have contrast, you don't know.
Yeah.
It's your norm. So you were in your 20s and you weren't necessarily diagnosed bipolar at that point. So when did you actually get that label, or when did you learn that label?
Ironically, I got diagnosed when I was in grad school, getting my master's in clinical counseling. So here I am studying psychology so that I can help others. And I found out about myself. And I put the pieces of the puzzle together. I talked to a colleague and I said, "What do you think about this?" And she was like, "Yes, this is textbook." Went to my psychiatrist and I just gave him the checklist. And it was like, "I'm experiencing this, 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 and this. What do you think it is?" And the psychiatrist was like, "That's textbook bipolar disorder."
But
so that's when I started the meds.
When you talk about rock bottom, though, things got pretty bad, right? I mean, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my bipolar disorder went into rapid cycling in the fall of 2018. And so bipolar disorder goes into mania and then it goes into depression. And sometimes you get a year in between, sometimes you get a month in between. I didn't know who I was from one day to the next. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it became unethical for me to practice as a therapist because before I would knock it out of the park 3-4 days a week and I was fine. This turned into I would do my morning sessions and then by 11 o'clock, I had to go home and be under the covers in bed because my anxiety was like through the roof.
Oh, wow.
And so then I had to quit working and I moved in with my mom at the age of 40. And then it was February of 2019 that I found the carnivore diet. And I went overnight from ramen noodles and Takis and donuts and beer and wine and all the things and pizza and ice cream to ribeyes, chicken wings, fatty pork butt, bacon, breakfast sausage, all the fatty meat.
And did you go strict carnivore, or were you still doing, were you doing dairy as well? Because I know most carnivore do dairy.
I personally didn't. I didn't do dairy and I didn't do eggs. And I noticed that I was reacting to butter even. And I found out later that MS patients, they react to the casein in butter. They even react to the trace amounts of casein in ghee. And I was even reacting to the ghee. And so everything was beef tallow. And then eventually, within 8 to 10 months, I really fine-tuned it and found out that beef was the only thing that I did not have a reaction to. So I went straight lion diet within 10 months.
And that was mostly through a process of an elimination, right? So you started pulling things out, you pulled out all the processed foods, you mostly went meat-based or carnivore, but then noticed, oh, some of these other things were still doing that, and then went full lion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Because I was on food stamps. So I was getting the meat right out of the grocery store. And so I was getting the chicken with all the hormones in it. So I noticed that whenever I would eat chicken, I would get emotional and I would get irritable. And so I just stopped eating the chicken. And I found that whenever I just ate the beef, even though it was grocery store beef, I was feeling better mentally, physically, emotionally.
It's fascinating. I mean, when your system is so sensitive to things, you really can gauge those subtle, like, oh, chicken versus beef versus fish or whatever it is. I don't think most people ever notice those things because, to a degree, I think most people are not eating mindfully. They're not really in their bodies while they're eating. They're just, it's like a lifestyle or a way of feeling. But it sounds like you had to be very mindful because it was really like, you're kind of on the edge, right? It's like if you go off, you really go off.
I could go to the psych ward. Yeah. Like it wasn't like Emily, like I think that other people who are neurotypical, they think, yeah, I've had bad days too. No, like my bad day could be like me selling everything I own and moving to another state. Or my bad day could be, me, like I said, wanting to take my own life, or just these extremes. And so I couldn't just go and be like, oh, well, I'm having a cheat day, so I'm going to have a piece of cake. Like that could end up with me in the psych ward. And so I had to stay very safe in that transition. And then I was, like you said, a really great experiment because then I was able to fine tune what am I feeling best on? And who doesn't want to feel best? Who doesn't want to feel better?
Yeah, seriously. So how long did you do that lion, or how long have you been doing that lion diet?
I'm still pretty much lion. I did add eggs in about, oh gosh, probably like 6 or 7 months ago. And at first, the only reason I didn't add eggs in is because they made me fart. And I don't enjoy farting. Like being carnivore, you just don't fart. And so I didn't like that. And now, they don't cause that. Like it's not a problem. It's a non-issue. I can have, ground beef and eggs and I'm fine. Fatty beef brisket is one of my favorite things to eat. Love ribeyes. And every once in a while, if I need to, like I'm out with people or whatever, I will eat pork or chicken or fish. But it just doesn't satiate me like beef does.
But do you have like as much of a sensitivity to it now that you've been eating this way for a while? Okay.
No, I can eat it and it doesn't cause me the problems that it used to. It just doesn't hit that spot that beef does. It feels like an appetizer. Like if I have, shrimp and like fish or whatever, I'm just like, okay, that was cute. That's like an appetizer. Like, give me the meal. And the meal is always hitting that spot with the beef.
And so you really went this. So it's not that your doctor referred you to carnivore. It's like you learned about this one person who had positive effects on it, and then you kind of just like what made you go like, oh, I'm going to try that? Like that's a big leap of faith, and a lot of people are not so reticent to leave the safety of Western medicine. They're not so reticent to leave to change their diet, the comfort, to leave their comfort zone, because even though it was a disorder, it's still somewhat a comfort zone, right? Because food is emotional for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even sometimes have words for what happened in that moment. It was February 23rd, 2019. And I literally couldn't do anything. I was so incapacitated mentally and emotionally and physically. I was just, I had nothing left to give. And I remember I just laid there and I listened to the first chapter of the audiobook by Amber O'Hearn. And I heard a woman who had a story that was literally like a mirror to me, that she was biting her husband's head off and that she was, just causing chaos for her children. And it was just this angst. And then within 2 weeks, her husband was like, have you noticed how calm you are? Have you noticed how, smoothly things are running? And then it was 10 years later. And so just to get that glimpse of hope was everything to me. But what it was more than anything was this knowing. Just like we were talking about where, we felt familiar, it felt like a familiar thing. It felt like that's what I'm supposed to do. And I came from addiction of sugar and processed food. Instead of just making a batch of, cookies, I would make 2 batches so that I could eat the dough of one batch and the cookies of the other batch. So I knew that, thankfully, being this extreme with the bipolar disorder, that I needed to jump all the way in. I couldn't just tiptoe into the water. I know me, and I know that I needed to go absolutely extreme. So I jumped in because I had this knowing, and I went all in, and it was the best gamble that I could have made.
One of the issues, though, a lot of humans have, but particularly addicts, is anchoring, though. The anchoring in okay, I'm now doing something differently. It doesn't give me the same high that I used to have, the adrenal, or the adrenaline, right? But they a lot of them, go to support groups. There's so many different actions people take to try to stay anchored. But when talking to many addicts, that's kind of the piece that they struggle with the most is how do I stay connected to this positive feeling, these changes? So what is your anchor?
So for me, I was in such a dark place that it was just a new pile of horrible for me to not have that dopamine hit from the sugar and the processed food. And so it wasn't anything new for me to suffer. And so I had this hope that I would at least get relief. I didn't think it was going to resolve my bipolar disorder. I didn't think in a million years I was ever going to be off of psych meds, or that I was ever going to be able to experience joy. And I had this, like I said, this level of tolerance for just destruction, that it felt like I was going to go through this no matter what. And then for me, my coach was my brother. He was the one who told me about this. He was the one who sent me Amber O'Hearn's book. And I remember I reached out to him the first day and I told him everything that I ate. And he said to just keep that fat 50% as much as you can. And I really believe that was what kind of helped me, because I had this witness. I had somebody who was going to listen to what I was eating. And so for me, it did the trick. And then as soon as I experienced joy in April, I think it was in March, then I was hooked, because I had never experienced joy before that was not from, drugs or alcohol or sex or shopping.
Wow. And what was that joyful moment?
I was just driving. I was driving in the car, and it happened for 10 minutes. And it was just like this little pinhole. And it was just a little bit of joy. And it was so foreign. And I was just like, oh, I was driving and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. What is this? What is this experience? And then just like that, it was gone. And I was like, okay, that was weird. It came back the next day for 15 minutes. And then the next day for 20 minutes. And now I literally can't have a bad day. Like, I could have a flat tire. I could have my husband cuss me out. I could have, my best friend betray me. I could have all these things. And I'm just like, okay, we'll see how it goes.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Especially going from the other extreme where I would stub my toe and it would ruin my whole day, you know?
Right. Wow, you're making me think then that some of those moments for people are really connected even more so to diet than even any of us realize. You know, I think we tend to connect them to, oh, just it's my mood, you know, or just like I'm just having it's a cloudy day that, you know, that it's outside of us versus no, maybe it's chemical, maybe it's biological, maybe you're not eating enough fat and you know, and like you, things are live wires because of it.
Yeah, but and you and I talked about this before, but one thing that really bothers me is that I feel like I should be able to process the other stuff. Like
What do you mean?
there well, like for instance, I think 3 years in, I was cooking for my son and we were arguing. I wish you could have been there because you would have helped being a chef. But we were arguing about the crispiness of French fries. And so I peeled my own potatoes. They were white potatoes, and I was making them for my son. And we were arguing whether they were crispier baked, sauteed, or deep fried. And it was all beef tallow. And it was all potatoes that I peeled myself. And so we had 3 different ways. And then we did a taste test. I should have just had him do the taste test. But I ate 9 French fries that I cooked in my kitchen with white potatoes and beef tallow. I had depression for 24 to 48 hours. Like I was in my bed with like suicidal ideation. And I'm just like, what is wrong here? This is not a sign of wellness or health that I can't have 9 French fries that I made in my own kitchen. There's a misfire here somewhere. And so I would love to eventually get to the place where I can, you know, have 9 French fries and not have depression for 48 hours.
Well, that's the rub though, right? I mean, that's the thing I think we're all fighting is that we have expectations of ourselves at whatever age we are at, that this is where we should be in our life and this is how life should be for us. And when that is inconsistent with that expectation we have, it's very frustrating because then then self-judgment comes, then you get really, you know, that inner battle of like, but is there something wrong with me? Why is it always like this? Why is life so hard? And then we start, you know, the trauma stories, you know, kind of like increase and then overwhelm us entirely. But I do think you're tapping something that is inherently challenging for all of us as we age, depending on our diets, you know, different phases of our lives. Like we're constantly battling expectation and change, like involuntary change that it's just going to happen. Doesn't matter what you do. Sorry. Life is changing, you know? And, but it does sound like, despite you saying that you haven't figured it out, it does sound like you do have some grounding in it. Like it sounds to me like you actually you're recognizing, you're sensitive enough in your body that you're recognizing what is working, what's not working. It sounds to me that you're also, I don't know, do you think maybe that you also have faith that there's this kind of connection to something bigger than yourself that's helping you to kind of take it one day at a time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can look back and I can see the possibility that on February 23rd, 2019, I could have missed that message. I could have skimmed over that. I could have been like, okay, whatever. But I heard the message and I internalized it and I knew that it was for me. And now it's like learning a new language. Like I'm learning the language of my soul. and of my spirit and how to navigate it. And I can hear those messages more clearly now because I'm not chock full of sugar and processed food and inflammation. There was so much noise. I was thinking about what I was going to eat every 2 to 4 hours. And now I have so much free. I can fast for 5 days and not think about food. And I'm perfectly fine. You wouldn't even know that I was fasting. And so for me personally, to have this connection to spirit, to this other aspect of navigating life, it's priceless. It's so much more important to me than enjoying a pizza.
Right. Now you kind of created a system called what? Inner clarity system, right? That it's like an 8-week program. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're basically it's taking everything you've learned and everything based on your education as well that is supporting other people navigating these kind of health issues. So what do you believe people really need to move from the chaos to the calm in their mental and physical health?
Yeah, I absolutely have found that other people like me that were struggling with mental illness, they couldn't do just like a self-paced program. They would get excited about the program. They would log in. They might watch the first video or do the first week's homework. But what we need is to be seen. What we need is to connect and to know that somebody's there with us. And I realized that the mental health model of, just being a therapist was a broken model because I would have my clients come in and they would divulge all of their trauma from childhood or whatever. And they'd lay it all out on the table. And I'm like, okay, your 45 minutes is up. I'll see you next week. And it was just like, okay, I'll pack up my guts and put him back in my torso. And so I realized that I needed to not only meet them where they're at, but I needed to show them and reflect back to them. So that's part of the inner clarity system is I'm not teaching them to listen to me or listen to Dr. So-and-so or listen to this YouTuber. I'm teaching them to listen to themselves, their inner clarity. And I do that through modeling conversations back and forth. And it has been so profound. I had a client just this week, and she said, the intensity of your work is the magic because I know that you're right here with me on this journey. And I was just like, okay, that's why I'm doing it,
Yeah, you
so-
definitely are very present. I mean, at least that's my judgment of you. Like you seem very present, very engaged, not only with your own process, your own life, but just whoever you're around. What do you attribute that presence to? Do you attribute it to the pain that you went through from the past? Like,
Yeah, yes, yes and no. But I also think I just came out of the womb like this. I just, I'm very, very curious, just like you. And I want to know where this thought comes from. I want to know where this behavior comes from. I want to deconstruct it. And what I have found that is at the root of every welcome behavior and every unwelcome behavior is either love or a distortion of love. And so whenever I get in there, I know that that's what we're getting to. And then that is what just keeps me so curious. I feel like I'm an investigator and I'm like, ooh, let's get to the bottom of this. And let me show you how amazing you are. And watching them see themselves through new eyes is so rewarding. Like,
what's an
so
example of a distortion of love?
fun. So I definitely have found kind of a theme of a lot of clients that they come from like childhood trauma, like parental trauma, and being told that they're worthless and that they're useless, and they've internalized a lot of these messages. And whenever I can flip the power to them, and I can say, yeah, but look at all of the circumstances that have been set up to this, and you survived that. You were so strong through all of this. Look at this other person. They have a mom and a dad, and they're telling them that they're beautiful and wonderful and incredible. And they've got this 6-figure income, and this little white picket fence, and this 20-year marriage and whatever. Duh. Duh, they felt really good about themselves. Duh, they attracted this, incredible relationship. But you are still standing through all of this adversity. And so I flip the script, and I show them that they are the hero in all of this. And then I let them know that that power is literally them unpacking all of that distortion of love, so that they don't have to wait on mom and dad and their siblings or whatever to love them. They get to stand up and say, I'm going to nurture her. I'm going to nurture him. And then they get to love themselves. So that there's the distortion of love, and then they get to take the responsibility of loving themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I like it. Well, so you working a lot with clients, you're working to help other people a lot, right? And one of the things that happens with most health practitioners when their output is helping other people, the person that suffers the most is them, so their input lacks. So how are you holding space for your own nervous system while you're supporting others?
I have friends like James Barry. I have friends like Angela. I have friends like my local best friends.
Okay, but to your point, so you're recognizing, hey, I don't have. So this is actually an important distinction. You said early on that you felt alone, and so what I'm hearing right now is you're like, oh, well, how I support my own health now is I'm no longer alone. I reach out, I talk to people, I share my experience, I ask for help. Is that true?
Oh, 100%. Like, I don't hide, because I recognize that hiding is actually just that isolation is cutting me off from maybe the trauma, but it's also cutting me off from the solution. And so I have found that whenever I am vulnerable to see people, I don't just like open myself up to anyone, but when I am open to kind and loving souls, and I allow that love to come into the darkest parts of me, then it is like this salve that just heals so much of my wounds that almost I didn't even know was there. And so I do that self-care first. I don't come into any of my appointments with my clients when I am at a deficit, or I have an empty cup. I fill myself up to overflowing. And now I stay ready. Like, there's not ever a day that I'm not just intentionally filling my cup and connecting to source and connecting to spirit, because I don't know if somebody is going to, have a crisis and, maybe even need to go to the psych ward, or something's going to happen. And so I just stay ready. And I literally am this wellspring now of just joy and love that comes out of me, because I recognize that that's the whole reason I came to Earth. That's the whole reason I'm on this mission.
It's so beautiful. I have to wonder, though, it's such a contrast from the person that you started out the podcast describing of who you used to be. So what would Emily Penton of 2025 tell little Emily, back then what advice would you give her?
I would tell her that she is enough. She always felt like she wasn't enough. And I said many times back then that I have nothing left to give because I tried so hard in every job. I gave my all. Like I was not that like half-ass person. Every relationship I've been in, I gave my all. Everything that I've ever done, I'm just intense and I give my all. And then I got to the point where I just had to tap out and I'm like, I have nothing left to give. And so I was constantly recognizing that I didn't hit the mark and that I felt like I wasn't enough until I was able to get to this point of clarity to know that I am more than enough. That even on my worst day, I am knocking it out of the park. And that shift in me is why I am able to show up every day.
I love it, Emily. I love it. I think it is so important to honor thyself, to honor thy journey. Have you had any setbacks in this journey?
Yeah. I had a really interesting one. I started eating honey because honey is carnivore, because it's from bees. And I did not take into account my addiction to sugar. And I was not eating pure, raw, unfiltered honey. I was eating honey from Aldi's. And so it is more than likely pretty much very close to high fructose corn syrup. And I didn't have a little bit of honey. I ate copious amounts of honey because I just fell back into my addiction because I hadn't had a sweet taste in my mouth for 5 years. And then all of a sudden I have honey and I went off the rails and it threw me into psychosis. And so for 3 days, I thought I was a mermaid. I was telling my family really weird things. I was talking really fast. I scared them. I scared my friends and my family. And thankfully, they watched my YouTube. And my dad sat a plate of 2 pounds of fatty beef brisket in front of me. And he said, "You need to eat this. And here's some water." And I was like, okay. And within 2 hours, I just snapped out of the psychosis. And I was like, I think I just went through psychosis. He was like, yeah, for 3 days. He was like, it took us a while to figure it out. But yes. And then I, of course, haven't gone back to honey.
Wow.
Yeah.
You bring something up though that is that's really interesting to me. And I'm wondering what your opinion of this is. As a self-labeled addict of sugar, is it all or nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all or nothing. Absolutely. And I'm looking back and I'm like, why did I even do that? I should have been more aware and more cautious. But I'm almost grateful that it happened because I learned so much. And what I learned about my family is that they didn't take me to the psych ward. They didn't put me on medication. They met me where I was at. And that could have been a absolute tragedy. And instead, it was just like a speed bump. And so as much as I'm just like, dang it, why did I do that? I'm grateful because I saw this love come out of my friends and come out of my family that even when I lost my mind for 3 days, they loved me and they took care of me. And so I don't have to feel like, this big, strong girl that I am, in charge of my life and I am protecting my life. I have allowed my village to be there for me. And that was more of a benefit for me than anything.
And is that what's helping you? Because it's interesting to me that you made that comment about the potatoes, about like, oh, I felt so frustrated that, I was so sensitive. But it doesn't sound like you're being hard on yourself about the honey. So is that the difference? Is that because you felt that connection to your family, your community, and you felt that love from them?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and it's not that I feel frustrated with the potatoes or frustrated with the honey. It's just I feel like there's something missing. Like there's something in the wires that are crossing in my brain. Why did honey cause me to go into psychosis?
Got it.
Why did potatoes cause me to go into depression? I'm so thankful for carnivore, but I recognize that it is just a Band-Aid that is really awesome. It's a gold Band-Aid. It is phenomenal. But it's holding back the symptoms, but it's not showing me like the root cause. Am I not able to methylate properly? What's going on in my brain that these things happen?
That is a great realization. Like that, really, like I want to honor you because that curiosity and that question that you're asking yourself right now, most people never ask themselves. But I really do believe you've struck gold because it's like we really our health is an onion, right? It's like things don't always show up from the get-go. One thing does not correlate to the other. Sometimes you can deal with the outer layer, and then now that your body is not fighting that, it reveals something new. And so but I think that pursuit is what we're really talking about. That pursuit of like, optimal health. Like that it's not just about diet, that sometimes there can be something else going on and that we don't want to just the goal is to be like resilient. Like that it's okay,
Mm,
like to the point where I can have a potato, I can have the honey, I can have anything and my body will be okay. That's the
mhm.
goal. I think that is what how it should be. I think if I were to add a should, I think we are designed to thrive. I think humans are. And I think that when our bodies, our systems are so temperamental, that is a clue. And I love that you're asking the questions. Are you are you at the place with the question where you're actually reaching out for help? Like what are you doing towards trying to find that answer?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm there, that I am actually asking to go like, be a lab rat or be a pin cushion where I'm, having blood drawn and figure me out, figure me out. Um, but I can see that I'm on that track because I see the pattern of Emily that she goes through things because all she's going to do is turn around and help others. And so right now I'm in the phase where I help others stop the bleeding. And once we put the tourniquet on and we've stopped the bleeding, that's awesome. That's better than, what people experience with psych meds and the psych wards and everything. They don't even stop the bleeding. And so I'm grateful that I'm to that place. But now I feel this shift. I feel this curiosity that now I want to get into, okay, we stopped the bleeding. We've triaged everything. People don't want to take their own lives. They're able to work full time. They're able to stay in marriages. They're able to not, break up with their best friend. Like they're able to function like a normal person. But now let's go into finding out why. Why is this here? Why is this happening? And my journey has taken me into more of a spiritual journey. In that once I cleared out the noise of the food noise and I got really still and really quiet, I'm actually getting some insights that maybe me not being neurotypical is actually my superpower. And it's
Definitely.
actually my gift. And it's actually part of my mission. And so here I am going, why am I not like normal humans? You're not a normal human. You're not supposed to be a normal human. You're supposed to be supernatural. And so that's why you have different pathways. And so I don't want to sound arrogant at all, but I'm seeing that I'm just on my path. And so I'm just going to be in my lane. And then I'm going to help the others that feel like they're the scum of the earth and they're the rejects of society. Like
The Emily Pentons of yesteryear.
Yes, I would love, this is my dream. This is my absolute dream for me to go into like some area of like homelessness and go find like all the schizophrenics and just feed them every day 2 or 3 fatty ribeyes and just be like, here you go. Like, I'm just giving to the poor. Like, I'm just feeding the homeless. And then watch schizophrenics start to have the voices start to be like, hey, I think I want to get a job. I think I want to have a house. I think I want to have a family. I think I want to have a life, and just watch. Like, that would be my dream, to go and just feed schizophrenics ribeyes.
It's so like the opposite of what most soup kitchens, what most providers give, right? I don't even know if they always serve me. I back in the day, I mean, I know I volunteered and I feel like it was mostly like lentils and, beans and rice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so interesting. Emily, I so appreciate you sharing your story. I truly believe you are a model of that food affects our health.
Absolutely.
You're proof.
It's undeniable to this point. It's just my gut is directly connected to my brain, and I can't deny that anymore.
And I don't believe you're abnormal. I think that's true for all of us. And I think it's always beautiful when people learn that as early as possible. And then, of course, there's those of us that learn it later, like you or I. But it's like, it's still shocking to me to this day that people don't connect how they feel to what they're eating. And of course, there's more to it, but to me, that's the baseline. It's the most primal kind of ancestral thing of like, just focus on what you're eating because it's something you do every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are there other kind of, because you mentioned a couple of, this being everyday ancestral before we go, I just feel like you've kind of already articulated some ancestral lifestyle or principles. You mentioned lion diets, a very, very basic way of eating. So I'd love you to kind of elaborate to anyone that doesn't know what the lion diet is. And then the other piece that you mentioned was silence and stillness. So first question, what is the lion diet exactly for those that may not know and I might be curious at this point?
Yeah, so lion diet is ruminant meats, because pig and chicken and other animals, they have a different way of processing with their stomachs.
Right.
And then ruminant animals.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say they just have the one stomach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that would be lamb. I'm sure there's like a whole list. But for me and for like typical people, it's just beef.
So you're looking for like lion diet is like the 4-chamber stomachs or the multi-chamber the ruminants, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I stick with beef.
And that's it. It's any part of the whole animal, but that's it. Nothing beyond the animal meat.
No.
And the animal fat, of course. Yeah.
And I added eggs 6 months ago, but we're talking about, I've been eating just beef for 6 years.
Wow.
And that's just where I thrive. And now, like I said, I can go have some pulled pork or chicken wings or fish. I could have it, but it just doesn't satiate me. It doesn't feed me like beef does. And I'm sure I could have lamb, but I don't have it locally.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're mostly doing beef. And are there other ancestral line tools that you're utilizing? Because you mentioned the lion diet, which I believe is very ancestral, right? And then you mentioned stillness. Are there others?
Yeah.
Spirituality you mentioned as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It was in March of 2020. So here I am. I just went through my first year of carnivore. I resolved bipolar disorder, resolved multiple sclerosis. I went back to work full time in June of 2019. So, and here I am, March of 2020. The whole world is falling apart. And I had a tragedy, absolute crisis in my family that involved my son, and my entire world fell apart. And I called a friend and I'm like, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened. What do I do to resolve all of this trauma before? I just ate meat. What do I eat more meat? Like, what do I do? And she said, I want you to go outside at sunrise and put your bare feet on the ground and your eyes in the morning sunrise. I was like, do you hear the words that I'm saying? There is an absolute crisis and tragedy that has hit my family, and the whole rest of the world is exploding. What are you talking about? And she was like, I'm telling you, put your feet on the ground, your eyes in the sun. I hung up and I went and did it. And I would do 10 minutes and I would go back to sleep. And then the next day I would do 15 minutes and I would go back to sleep. Until now, it is my absolute favorite time of the day, because what happened in that grounding was that it shifted my tragedy into purpose, into brilliance, into beauty, into the best thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. It has literally healed everyone in my family that it affected. It has been the most beautiful experience. What I thought was tragedy was actually a divine gift. And I just had to see it through the eyes of Source and to connecting with not only Mother Earth, but connecting to God. And I was given the vision of what is actually going on. So it's not just about meat. It's also about connecting to the earth and to nature.
And so you're saying you got that wisdom or that download from the grounding of your feet on the earth, and from, getting that very specific early morning sunlight that is very specific, and different than the rest of this day's sun. So
100%. And I knew it because I would go and I would spend that 10 minutes and I would just be seeing tragedy in my life. And I'm just like, and I'd spend that 10 minutes and I was just like, everything's okay. Everything's all right. Nothing is wrong. It's going to be okay. And then I would come back in after the 10 minutes and I'm like, this is not okay. Like, I didn't go back to where I was with bipolar disorder, but it was a valid concern. It was a tragedy. And then I started, whenever I would go and I would spend that 15 minutes or whatever, and then it started just expanding into my day, just like how hope came into me with the carnivore eating. This vision came into me and I was able to see the reality of my tragedy as actually a gift and a benefit.
Wow.
And so I believe that it was not that my circumstance changed, because that lasted for 1 year and 9 months, that tragedy. And I believe that what I did was I changed my beacon, and that I was attracting everything to fall into place. I was attracting love. I was attracting for all of these things to work out. And it took 1 year and 9 months, but they did. And now they're better than ever.
I mean, not to detract at all from what you're saying, not at all. Like, I think what your perspective on it is so valid, but I have to wonder if included in your perspective is that just like the food affected your neuroses, right? That the grounding and that specific light were also feeding your system a very depleted system. You know what I mean? In a different but similar way to the way the food was. And I almost feel like that it's one of the best testimonies of these ancestral simple principles. We're talking real whole foods. We're focusing primarily on whole animal. We're focusing on waking up when we technically used to wake up, right? It's like with the sunrise, which probably also coincided with you now starting to go to bed when the sun set, right? Because if you were getting up so early, you're getting tired and going to bed earlier, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then grounding, right? Not having anything in between you and the earth, which we also used to have more exposure to that. So that's incredibly powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for being that beacon. Hopefully, you are to me. You are definitely that beacon to me. But I hope that everyone listening recognizes and gets something from your story, because I really believe you're a beacon for everyone else as well. So thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you? How can they explore your inner clarity system? Please share how people can find you.
Yeah, it's innerclaritysystem.com. And it just breaks down kind of what it is to work with me. And I don't actually work with anybody unless they first come through a clarity call, because I need to make sure that I'm a good fit for you, you're a good fit for me. And it's $111. But I have had hundreds of people that have that one call with me, and they take what we set up and what we uncover there. And I get an email a month later and they're like, you totally changed my life. I got one a couple months ago, a guy a year later, and he was like, Emily, I don't even recognize my life. And it was one call. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, awesome. I love it. And then, of course, I have other people who need more of that kind of a rehab, more of that intense daily help. And then we go from there.
And then people can find you on socials as well, right?
Yep. Inner Clarity System. If you search anything, Emily Penton or Inner Clarity System, you're going to find me.
That's an incredible low price for what you offer.
Thank
you. Thank you again. And I look forward to hearing more healing and more revelations from you in our relationship as we grow to get to know each other better. And I just thank you for sharing your story. And I thank you all for joining us on this journey. I gotta say, it's fantastic getting this time with such interesting people, and I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. So thank you for listening, for watching, and please leave a comment. Please let me know how we're doing, and stay curious. Thank you so much for joining me on Everyday Ancestral. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. You can find the show notes, links, and resources mentioned at eatpluck.com. That's EATPLUCK.com. And hey, if you know someone who'd get something out of this, share it with them too. Stay curious, live well, and keep it ancestral.